For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. This is the first week that I've actually hit all 3 dates on the exact times that I said I would, so yay for me on that one. But I really appreciate everybody that's been tuning in and showing us a lot of love and support on Twitch and podcast in general. We're trying new things. We're doing this React series thing that's been interesting, and I really appreciate everybody's feedback. But today it is Sunday morning, so you know what that means. It is time for our annual, or as usual, podcast. Not annual, that would have been very bad. But we have Town of Trees. How's it going today, y'all?
Good.
Doing good.
Very excited. It was funny because I told Connor that it was Connor that I was talking to, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I was telling Connor, I was like, well, we could push it a little bit later since you're an hour ahead of me. And he was like, nope, we're all early risers and we're good to go. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And so far, so good, I think. I think Chris is the only one that looks a little bit more tired than the rest.
Hey, yeah, it's my wife's birthday weekend, so last night was
an experience.
It was a thing.
I got you. Well, happy birthday to her. Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited to sit down and chat. It's actually kind of funny how I was introduced to y'all. I think it was you guys had posted a live performance video on Facebook, and somehow it came up in my recommended, because I was trying to figure out, like, did I have friends? Because we have a few people that we connect with in like Boise and Nampa and that part of the state, that part of the state, but I didn't notice any like mutual friends. So I was trying to figure out forever how I ran across your video, and I never could figure it out. But it was really cool how that kind of happened, and how Facebook was like, oh, hey, you should check these people out and watch the live performance video. I'm not sure. I think it was something you just posted recently.
Yeah, that was from Hemp Fest. We played that a couple weeks ago at Julia Davis Park, downtown Boise. So it was about an hour set of all originals for the Boise Hemp Fest. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how we met, and it's really funny how Facebook seems to be falling off in some ways, but I've still met so many new musicians just randomly on Facebook that it's just kind of like, okay, I still see the value there. But I do want to give you all a minute to kind of take a second and introduce yourselves to everyone that's just kind of meeting you for the first time, and just kind of give names to faces and kind of what you do in Town of Trees. So I guess we'll start with Connor.
So I'm Connor. I play drums with Town Trees. Been in the band for a good minute now, and we all kind of collectively write songs and stuff too. So yeah, but pretty much the drummer.
That skipped over a lot. I mean, Connor started it like 5-6 years ago, and totally different members.
I think you labeled it as a boy band.
Oh yeah. We all have like matching zinc, hairdos and everything to go with it.
Yes, exactly. So it was very, very different. I mean, I'd never been in a band before until I met him at the apartment complex we lived in Boise, because I was going to Boise State, so was he. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's in a band. Like, I want to be in a band. And so we kind of just joined, and I became a singer, and we all kind of rotated. Like, I played piano the whole time, and he played a lot of guitar and singing. So here we are.
Yeah.
A lot of different sound, and we're excited for you guys to hear it.
Awesome.
1 second. This dog
you're
is
good.
so annoying. Come here.
We could jump down to Brendan, I guess.
My name's Brendan. I joined the band only about 3-4 months ago, but I play the keyboard and started to incorporate some electronic sounds because I use Logic Pro, and we started to use some of those sounds in some of our music, and it's been an interesting journey for sure, using some of those electronic sounds in there, more folk genre.
Yes. And then Chris.
Yeah, my name's Chris. I play guitar. Started with the 25th Army Band a long, long time ago, and that's how I met Connor. And I retired from the Army Band, and he knew I was still looking for some place to play. So, beginning of this year, they sent me like 2 piano vocal tracks and said, "Hey, we're going to the recording studio in a week and a half. Can you make up guitar parts?" I was like, "Okay." So that's how that started, and that was actually both of the 2 songs that just got released. That first single, "Sea Slackers," and then "Everything Will Be Fine." That was those 2 songs. So pretty interesting start.
Nice. I must say though, like yesterday when I was kind of preparing for all this, I like all your music, but for whatever reason, Swipe Left is probably the most interesting and one that'll probably get put on the playlist for a good minute, just because it's so different. But no, it's that's awesome. Chris, you brought up the 25th Army Band, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you and Connor played in that together, because that kind of explains some of the random Facebook photos I saw of guys in cargo pants and an army shirt. I was just like, because I've seen some bands like that where they're like military, like I've seen some bluegrass bands that are like army, not army themed, but like just a bunch of army buddies that kind of play off that. Yeah. Was this, is that kind of what this was, or was this like an official Army?
Yeah, Hubley's in the Army Band as well. Actually, it's the actual Idaho Army National Guard 25th Army Band. So we played in it for a long time together. I actually started on trumpet and then moved to guitar, and I finished 20 years there. And so yeah, it was a really good experience. It paid for my college and got me a lot of places. So it was a pretty cool deal.
Awesome. That's good. That's cool. So what's the origin stories of Town of Trees? I know you, Tori, I think you had mentioned that it started like 5 years ago or so, but it was also kind of interesting that I've noticed that a lot of the releases are more within the last couple of years of the pandemic. Is that when you started releasing music, or did you start scrubbing some of the older releases because of change of sound or what?
Yeah, so basically Town of Trees originally started with me and a couple buddies about 5 years ago. We played our first show at like the Hive. It's a little dive venue here in Boise, and yeah, it's originally it was just kind of like a weekend project type thing. The name actually came from, we were joking about it earlier, but potatoes. We had a whiteboard and we were writing down all the different names. We're like, oh, potatoes, tots, tater tots, and then tots stuck. So when we put it out, we're like, oh, tots, Town of Trees, which is Boise's city of trees. So that's kind of how the name came about. And it was a couple guys that ended up going off to college for music. And at the time, I was playing guitar in the band. And when I met Tori, we were kind of more of a folky band. So it was pretty much us two and then a bassist that we were just recording, and we are doing like the whole like Shaky Graves suitcase drum type thing, playing guitar and drums. And kind of eventually we started dabbling. All of our first recordings were all recorded in the garage that I recorded. And as these last 2 singles were actually done through a studio, and we've been trying to find our sound, basically, has been the huge part. And this is like the first time we're feeling like, okay, we found the group, we found the sound, because many members have come and gone. Like Tori and I have rotated through quite a few, but we finally found like the group that's like, this is Town of Trees, and we're going about a year now with everyone. So it'll be pretty awesome. But yeah, a huge part of that's just,
yeah, we didn't start actually recording songs till about 2 years ago. I think was our first. It's called Escape My Cage, which has since been scrubbed because it's when it's someone else wrote the song that it was all about. It was like they sang it, they did the guitar and everything, and they left. It's just kind of felt weird to keep playing it. So this is the group, and we've all kind of like Chris will send in a voice memo. Hey, let's build on this song. We're like, okay, let's do that. And then Hublie, he wrote a pretty cool track on doing his, what do you call it?
Voodoo magic.
Voodoo magic. Yeah, it's voodoo magic. I have no idea how to build beats and stuff like that. So we it kind of just, we all work on it together, and that makes it more fun, and how that makes how we can just keep playing it. So
yeah, we were just in the studio yesterday recording like the 6th track for this upcoming album that will probably be dropping. We're hoping around the end of December, beginning of January timeframe. So we're kind of getting a similar sound and a dialed kind of, this is what we are as Town Trees and stuff. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I remember kind of when I was talking to you, you'd mentioned that you were getting ready to go into the studio yesterday, and then I started following you on Instagram and stuff like that, and I saw, I'm assuming it was Tori because she popped up in a couple of the Instagram posts or the stories. Sorry, I'm so bad at Instagram, and yeah, here I am. So that's really cool that you guys are back in the studio freshly after releasing a new single, and you just keep it rolling. That's awesome. So for the current lineup of Town of Trees, how did this current lineup kind of come together?
Basically, so Chris was my like E6 in the Army. I played drums with him in the rock band through the 25th Army Band. And Hublie was kind of he plays trumpet in the rock band in the Army. So he would fill in, and we did like a kind of a funk band type tour. And we were like, wow, this is a lot of fun. But the Army's all covers. So we kind of, during the time we were looking and trying, we had lost a couple members. They went off touring with some other bands, and like we'd set the studio date forever ago for those 2 songs, Everything Will Be Fine and Sea Slackers. And I was like, who's a really good guitarist that could he's used to getting music a day before and coming up with stuff for it. I was like, Chris. So then we hit him up, and he just blew us out of the water with his guitar riffs. And we we're like, dude, you want to join? And Hublie had been helping us with the production and like recording and stuff like that, just kind of sitting in on the sessions anyways. And then he pretty much picked up keys, and he'd already done kind of synthy electronic sounds, but he's been learning true keys and stuff. And then he's like our auxiliary everything, like trumpet for some of our songs and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it just
and then for Klaus, can't forget about Klaus has actually been our longest member. Ever since our other members left, kind of right before, we had 40 gigs lined up last summer. It was kind of hectic, and I remember I was like, oh, there's this guy I went to school with, and he just moved back from Portland. I'm like, we could use a bassist right now. So I called him up, and I was like, yo, Klaus. I was like, we really need people in our band. Can you please come help us out? And he's like, sure. So we filled in for 1 gig, and then that led to 2, 3, 40. He totally saved us, and ever since then, ever since then, he's been here, and we're really thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome.
Hey, to be fair, there was no music ever sent to me.
That is true.
It's. I think Chris will be all right with it as long as it doesn't become a habit where.
No, it's okay. Actually, it worked really well. It was just a new experience for me, because I am used to getting music right before, day before some sort of performance, right? But usually it's written music. I got a voice memo with a piano part and a vocal line, so it was a very different experience for me, and it was kind of eye-opening, almost like a rebirth into music per se, I guess, because I had played for 20 years with the Army Band doing covers, and the idea is just cover that sound, right? You're listening to the artist and you're covering their sound exactly. And then like I've never, besides like improv solo, I've never written music. So to go through that process was like a total rediscovery, of music after 20 years of playing it. It's this is crazy.
Chris, since you kind of brought this up, I'm interested to know each individual story of how you each got into music. This will be a little bit of a clusterfuck, but I'll try and keep it as organized as I can to go through each story. So let's start with you, Chris. What got you into music?
Well, I started. I think my first experience was in 5th grade. I took a acoustic guitar class at Lincoln Elementary in Nampa. And from there, I started playing trumpet I played trumpet all through high school, concert band, jazz band, and I was getting ready to graduate, and my private trumpet instructor was actually the commander of the 25th Army Band at the time. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna go to college?" I'm like, "Well, maybe. I don't have any money." And he's like, "Well, I mean, come play trumpet for the Army Band. We'll pay for your college." Like, well, that seems easy. So joined the Army Band, went off and started playing trumpet for them for a number of years until like the lead guitar player at the time that was in the band retired. And they're like, "Hey, has anybody else ever played guitar?" I was like, "Well, I've dabbled." They're like, "Figure it out. Let's go." So then, I guess that was maybe 15 or so years ago. Yeah. So from then on, I've been playing guitar in the Army Band, switched my primary instrument over, and just been doing that. So that was kind of a weird switch from trumpet to guitar, but pretty awesome.
Nice. And then Brendan, I guess.
I'm actually very similar to Chris. 5th grade, I did my first trumpet lesson in Weiser Middle School. And and I did it because my dad used to play trumpet, and he brought like an old pawn shop trumpet back home when I was like 4 or 5 and was playing it, and I was super interested. So naturally, when the band director came around and started asking like who would want to be in the band, you get to try out different instruments. That's the instrument I chose. I had to go find it in our storage shed the day of like the first band practice. I was like, "Oh yeah, there's that trumpet in there," and I was gonna miss the bus because I had to go grab my trumpet out of the storage shed and find it. But yeah, so I've been playing trumpet ever since 5th grade. The new like Logic synth stuff I picked up I think in 2017. I found the GarageBand app on my iPhone, and I didn't even know it existed. It's kind of like one of those apps, like it's just on your phone and like you don't even touch it ever. There's other apps like that I still have. I don't mess with. But for whatever reason, my friend was messing around with it, and I started messing around with it, and I was super interested and made all kinds of stuff on there. And then I ended up investing on Logic on my computer, and that's really broadened the horizon, allowed me to access a lot more tools I didn't have access to before. And yeah, it's been really fun actually using all of them. I'm excited to see where it goes.
So I'm guessing I'm the only one that's ever messed around with GarageBand. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's cool," and then
Yeah,
that's funny.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's all the pre-made stuff is kind of interesting, and then just kind of going in and modifying it is interesting in and of itself. So let's go ahead and jump over to Connor and Tori. I'll let you kind of fight it out. Who wants to go first?
I don't care. I can talk.
Oh yeah.
I guess music was kind of implied or normal in my family because both my parents were in rock bands. They actually met in a rock band in Seattle. So I just thought, okay, my mom's singing every day. Maybe I should probably become a singer. It just kind of seems like I have to at this point because my daddy is a baseball player and he played college baseball. I was like, okay, I got to do college softball. And so I feel like I just kind of copied them, just want to do everything they did. And I don't know, mom said, let's go to the music store and pick out an instrument. And I was like, okay, let's see, a violin, that looks cool. I picked it up, I was like, nah, it's not the right vibe. And I set it down and then bam, there's a piano. And that's kind of like the gateway instrument because it, teaches you all the basics for everything else about music. And so I took piano lessons and wasn't great at reading music, but had a good ear. So I was like, okay, we'll just bank on that for now. And kind of just did choir for 8 years, all throughout middle school and high school. And I never really became like a lead singer until like a year ago. So I guess that's kind of newer to me, going to vocal lessons, learning how to channel just your solo voice and how to do it the right way. I mean, singing is very complex and I've learned a lot about it. And yeah, it's definitely a growth experience for me, but I really enjoy it, especially in this band. I don't think it'd be as fun to just be a solo act. It's way more fun to have the group, and to be with my husband, it can be a challenge. It's hard to be married in a band, but we've gotten better at keeping outside things outside. Okay, this is business. Let's do music, and it's been pretty fun. So
nice.
Yeah, music. Music has always been something I've been intrigued with. I started with piano when I was like 2. And then I started playing drums for church originally when I was like 3.5 going on 4. My parents got me like a little drum set for church and super old timey, like hymnal type music. But I always just loved the sound of like whapping on drums. I'd always be playing on all the pots and pans. My parents would like, "What are you doing?" They go in the kitchen and I'd have them all out, playing drum solos and having fun with that. Started picking up guitar when I was, I want to say 9 or 10. And then drums was always my primary though. Like it's always what I fell in love with. When I would go, like kind of the moment where I was like, I want to like do music like on a bigger level was definitely when I was on Wildfire. So I get back from a 2-week run and I'd have a couple days off before we go to another one. And I just took my drum set downtown Boise and just set it up like on the street, just busking, and just had a Bluetooth speaker there and just would have a sign. Anyone can $5, you can play any song you want and I'll play along to it. So that was just like super good reps and people would come and throw on whatever song they wanted on the speaker and I just drum along to it. And it's like just seeing a group of like, 20, 30 people dancing on the street. I was like, this is awesome. Like, it's cool. Like you don't realize how big music is, like how cool of a talent and how much you can help people. And like, so it's a lot of fun. Did that and just was kind of like, that's about the time that when I got back when done with the Wildfire season, I was like, I kind of want to start a band, and started talking to some other musicians I played with. And we just kind of started that, and just been in love with drums. Auditioned for the Army band. That definitely, I failed the AMPA 3 times and passed on the 4th. So you have to take this huge audition process and it sucks. Like I went to the school music with the Army. I thought I was going to fail it because I reclassed as a firefighter and everything to get into that. So it was crazy, but it's been awesome.
For sure. And are y'all still in the Army band, or is that you're all kind of removed from that?
So myself and Brendan are. Chris retired a few months ago from it, so he got his big 20 in, and then Brendan and I have about a year left. I'm only doing 6 years, and 1 enlistment. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. And it's all active duty, or well, not active duty. Is it more of a reserve thing?
Yeah.
Or is it, okay.
Basically, it's through the guard. So it's like they'll schedule a couple gigs on the weekend, and you go play those 2 gigs, and then during the summer we do a 2-week tour. So it's like, you could end up northern Idaho, southern Idaho, wherever, and they'll get some bigger gigs too, like God and Country. We played Melaleuca Fest this last year, so it's like it's some good exposure, but it's very Army based. So you have to. It's all cover based. It's all, you're doing what the Army needs for its mission of recruiting. So,
for sure. That is interesting because, like I'd mentioned, I've seen a few. I'm guessing at this point they weren't Army themed bands. They were actually like state band or like like state National Guard type bands. That's cool that the Army does that, kind of giving musicians an opportunity to be in the Army without giving up their music passions. So kind of moving forward from there, as you're finishing that up and then kind of balancing Town of Trees, how does that balance kind of work? I think Connor and Brennan, you can kind of talk to that. Obviously, competing gigs. How do you guys kind of balance the schedule with the Army band and Town of Trees?
We are pretty busy. Like we've just accepted as a band, every member of us are just like, we have a lot going on. Like Tori, she's still a full-time college athlete, going to school full-time, and then gigging on the weekends when we're doing that, when she's not away traveling. With me, I work for Boise Fire Department, so there's already that, and then the Guard, and then Town of Trees. Brendan, he's actually a flight instructor, so he's getting his hours right now to become a pilot and then doing school full-time. And Chris is 3 kids, family, father, and also full-time job, and then was doing the Army and Town of Trees. So it's kind of crazy how it all we just prioritize it every week. It's like we send out one day that works for practice, and then anytime there's a gig that pops up, we just throw it out there and see if we can all make it. And it's pretty much just try to make it happen. But yeah, it's just going all cylinders. I think everyone's pretty busy with life and with their other jobs and commitments, and we make it work somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a conflict with work than it is with the Army band. The Army band's just kind of like, it happens every once in a while, and it's like inconvenient, I would say.
Yeah, it's just it's
more of like a work conflict.
I feel like with the Army band, you probably know a little bit more in advance.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know, okay, in 4 weeks, we have these 2 gigs, and we're going to have to go to Northern Idaho.
Yeah.
Whereas with like work, it's like, oh, hey, I need you to go here in like 12 hours. You know? So, but you brought up something very interesting with Brendan that's very close to me about being a flight instructor. My dad's actually a sim instructor for Airbus. So that's
awesome.
Yeah,
maybe I'll meet him someday when I go work for an airline after I get my hours, of course.
Yes, of course. He tells me about all the students that come in with these crazy student loan debts and like hundreds of hours, or like, no, actually, yeah, with like hundreds of hours. Whereas when he came up, it was like he had like flight out, or like students now have sim hours. Whereas back in the day when the FAA wasn't as uptight about things, it was like actual hours. I guess I don't know. It's interesting.
I haven't got to that bridge yet. Hopefully it's not so bad when I get there.
It's different times.
Yeah.
Like after certain events within the last 25 years, you know, things change. But
yeah.
So that's cool that you want to be a pilot in an airline and all that fun stuff, because I know the world needs it. My dad talks about the shortage all the time.
Job security.
Yep. Town of Trees, you just released a new single, Everything Will Be Fine. That dropped Friday, right? I'm not mistaken. What's the story behind that song?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think lyrically it was Klaus and me, and you were going in the Army for something.
For the tour,
and we were just like, there was like a songwriting exercise we wanted to try. We had pieces of paper. At the top you have like just a circle, and you write down random words, and then you kind of just brainstorm and get ideas off of that. And that day I was more positive than I normally am. So it was like, okay, like things are going great. The world is great. Let's do something kind of cheesy. Let's make a song that's just happy. And so that's kind of where we connected some lyrics, just wrote some stuff down. And kind of we call him our extra member, Sam. He's really talented guy. But he thought of some piano chords. He's a jazz pianist, and so he kind of just spurts out all this stuff, and then we're like, let's pick the coolest chords out of there. Let's make it into a song that's not too crazy, kind of a simplified song. And so that's kind of how the chords became the chords for Everything Will Be Fine. And it just bam, sent it to Connor, sent it to Chris. Everybody learned it like super fast, and it kind of just went rolling. That's how you know sometimes when a song just fits, because everybody gets it and everybody vibes with it. So, yeah.
Like, I think it also kind of just spoke to kind of the message that we were kind of setting as a band, was like, everyone had been going through so much crap with like quarantine, COVID, everything going on, like that. It was just kind of like trying to get back to that roots of like the good times, you know, the good feelings of like people just love each other, have fun, and like live in those moments, you know, versus like, all the stuff that's going on. So,
I think, Connor, that the song really sets a good tone for like what I think we want to say and do, right? I feel like there's so much when I go to my Spotify playlist, right? Half of the songs end up being marked explicit because of some sort of content, right? And I don't feel like there's a lot of that like holistic music in like the rock genre, right? Where your kids can go listen to it and you don't got to worry about a ton of drug, alcohol, sex references, you know, like just, I I don't know, good feeling, bringing people up, bringing people together instead of so much discord is where I feel like we're always living in right now. And I feel like that song captures that, you know. I like the second verse. You listen to the second verse of that song, it's just like uplifting. Like you want to go on like a Sunday drive with your windows down, listening to it, you know. It just feels good. That's really what inspired me on it.
Same, yeah.
Nice, awesome. And this was the second single off your last set of recording.
Yeah.
Is the intent to just kind of keep doing singles moving forward, or do you see yourself eventually doing an album, an EP, an LP, you know, whatever?
Yeah. So the time frame right now, we're actually about 6 songs up, including those 2 that we dropped, and those singles are going to be rolled into the album.
Okay.
And we're hopefully planning on dropping like between an 8 to 10 song album towards the end of December, beginning of January. That's where we're shooting for. We've been hitting the studio like almost every 2 weeks and going in, tracking the music, the vocals, and we'll usually do music one day and then the vocals the next. And it's, just kind of trying to get ahead, get them all mixed, mastered, and ready for that album. So that's our goal, is because all these new ones we're going to be dropping, or the whole album is very similar sounding, similar feel, similar lyrics, very within that same, versus we kind of were all over the place before.
I could kind of tell, having gone through your Spotify playlist, and then you go from like swipe left that features like a rapper on it to more like, I mean, it was all still seemed very folky in in general, but there was just different elements that made it seem different. So
can I say something about that? I think that's part of how we got to where we are today. And like earlier, I didn't want to make it seem like I was trashing on our ex-members, because I really am not, because they helped build us to where we got today. I mean, before we never hit the studio in our lives. We learned, how do we do this by ourselves? And the other members were a part of that, you know, and now we kind of have the ear of what we want, like a vision, and going to the studio is like, okay, now we know what we want. And all the things that happened before made it possible to do what we do now. And so I just think that's really exciting, and dabbling in other genres, having Poe the Rapper featured on a song. I mean, that was fun. And we did our first music video. We had a couple BSU students come out and just shoot it all at Eastside Tavern in downtown Boise. And it's just all, you know, it was really fun, all a learning experience. And
yeah, definitely. And that's what it is. It's been a learning curve to get to where we are now, and to get to where the sound is of what we want it now. And definitely now that album, that sound, what we write within is kind of that alternative rock, like I'd say alternative rock, pop punk kind of is a lot of the new album. So it's definitely, that's where we found we're comfortable. It feels good. This feels right. And stuff just flows. But like, yeah, it took us a while to kind of get that and the right members. And that's definitely what we got now. So it's been awesome.
For sure. And it's one of those things where, they're not members of the band anymore, but they still had a very influential part in the band. And whether it was a clean break, I guess is the best way to word it, or, you know, not so clean break, they were still part of the band and contributed to a degree. You may not be able to play their songs anymore. And that's always kind of been the interesting thing, especially with full bands, is when like a key writer leaves, it's like, what do you do with that song? Do you keep playing it? Do you kind of set it aside? And I think that's kind of where things get a little messy for most bands. But if you've kind of got your structure set, it's not really that messy. So, that's cool. So for Everything Will Be Fine, it's been out now for, let's call it 48 hours, a little bit more than 48 hours. What's kind of going through your mind now that this single is out and people are listening and hopefully responding to it?
It's honestly been really refreshing to kind of like put it out there and see people's feedback. Because the first thing I kind of do when we drop a song is I copy it, like the link to it and I start sending it to everyone in like my friends' Snapchat base, Instagram, Facebook, like try to promote as much as I can. But then I just always ask like kind of those closer friends that I know will give me honest feedback. Hey, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And it's been cool to get some of the people like, hey, I needed this song right now. Like this really, it's helped me through the day. And then like other people just kind of talking about, you know, like, wow, your sound's so full, or this is the best guitar we've heard in the song yet, or wow, the vocals, you guys sound like professional. So it's been cool to see like our fans that followed us for a long time acknowledging and like how they're kind of seeing our growth like in front of them and they're like acknowledging that. So that's been honestly super humbling and just awesome.
Nice. And so you'd brought up when you were kind of writing Everything Will Be Fine, that it was through a kind of a new way, that it was like a writing, not a writing prompt, but like a writing exercise, right, Tori?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny how it all begins. Songwriting is not something you can force. It's something I've learned. Like homework, I got my to-do list. I'm like, all right, 2 hours of data analytics, let's go. And then it's like, okay, I gotta, plan some time for songwriting. And then I'm just sitting there like, this is not gonna work. So luckily these exercises kind of help spur the moment a little bit. Like how do we get the ball rolling here? And sometimes you're gonna be distracted. Like sometimes I'm getting warmed up in the softball field and then I hear like kind of a tone in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go hum that on my phone real quick. That'd be super cool. I gotta get this voice memo recorded right now. And sometimes that's how it happens. I mean, usually I like to start with the chords first or the notes first and then write. Everything Will Be Fine was kind of the opposite, actually. It was like, oh, let's think of some lyrics first. So that was new. That's what I appreciate with everyone in the band. I think every song has been created slightly different. Not all lyrics happen like that. Usually Connor's the lyricist of the band, really, for most of the other songs. He's pretty good with that stuff. And then we kind of harp on each other like, hey, that doesn't sound good. Hey, that's too cheesy. Married couple, we might fight a little bit and come back to it a couple hours later. Okay, how about this? And then bam, we figure it out. And it is so nice, super fulfilling when you figure it out. Before that, it's kind of like, oh, sometimes it's a process.
Yeah, it's very much a collective process. Like, especially with the newer ones we've been writing, like Chris or Hubley will send like an idea that they have. And then we just kind of take that riff and then we kind of play with it on keys or guitar and kind of morph it a little bit. And we just kind of keep going, sending stuff back and forth until it kind of lands and we're like, oh, this is it. This is what we're writing lyrics to. This is the flow we're going. And it just kind of, it's fun. Like that's one thing I can say about like this group and like with this album is it's truly written by everyone in the band. Like everyone has contributed in some fashion, whether it's with the music, the lyrics.
Nope, they may have got kicked, but I could pick up a little there. I think I've always been impressed with Connor and Tori. I'm able to send just I'll get an idea down in Reaper. I've got this cool riff in my head with maybe some chords. I'll shoot them a recording out of Reaper and that'll be like a Thursday or a Friday. We got practice on Tuesday. We show up on Tuesday and like they've written lyrics to it, the whole song. You're like, it baffles my mind because I can't get there mentally, right? Like I don't have that like artistic vision. Maybe like I'll get an earworm on a guitar riff and record it, and then they could just go. And it's with everything that we're doing, like all of a sudden Connor will reach out and be like, hey, we got to figure out art for this new single release. I'm like, okay. I have no idea. And then he'll like just blast all these ideas and all of a sudden it like morphs into like, okay, now we're in execution phase. And you're like, how did we even get here so quickly, but pretty cool processing. Like they're saying, it just, it's felt really collaborative. I'm just always impressed with what everybody's bringing to rehearsal, like so quickly. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the current batch of record, you guys were in the studio Yesterday. Yep, that's how that works.
Yep.
You guys were in the studio yesterday. How did you guys feel in the studio yesterday? How was that experience for you? Now that Connor and Tori are back with us.
Yeah. Honestly, one of my favorite, I think it's In the Fights, the name of one of the songs we were recording yesterday, and I think it's going to be my favorite song on the album. Like, it's just everything lined. The guitar, it starts guitar riff, it's very mellow drums in the beginning, kind of has like a synthy pad rolling over it, and the bass, like, Klaus was just really on his game yesterday, and like, I don't know, it just, everything blended, and I'm just so excited to see that one come through. Like, it just, I've always enjoyed it, and that's like our newest one we wrote probably a couple weeks ago, if that. Like, Chris sent us the riff and it literally, we were like kind of fighting, like in a fight, so we're like, let's write a song about it, and then it was just like really good, like therapy in a sense too. So yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
Awesome. So the the upcoming album, you said December, January, around that time. As you kind of prepare, would this is technically would be considered your debut album, even though you've been released. Yep. As you kind of prepare for this, what are some of the things that you're concerned about? Maybe some questions you might have as you kind of prepare for the release of this upcoming debut album?
An album name.
Yeah. We have a board of just like potential names, and it's like just deciding on something and finding it, because like we're trying to capture the essence of the album, and it's just like that's been a struggle for sure. And I think also just kind of, it's definitely kind of scary being a debut album, like putting it out there. I'm so excited for it, but also it's like, this is the sound, this is what we're promoting, this is what we're marketing, because we're trying to get into, like, we're switching our goal as a band is to play like original sets, like playing at like music festivals, stuff like that. So as we're kind of going from we used to play a lot of covers, it'd be about, 50-50, and we would do 2-3 hour sets at all the local breweries. And it's like, yeah, we'd have like 30-40 gigs, but it wasn't what we want to do. Like, we love playing those hour sets, originals, like opening for bands, and just kind of, I think, just the kind of almost scared of the reaction that people may or may not have, and hopefully it'll be good. But it's like,
I think it'll be good. I've been itching for this album, itching, because I love how far we've come, but the new sound is great, and I know like our fans be crazy not to like it, because it's so much better, because we've gotten so much better from before. I mean, I think of some of our past songs, we had a lot of great songs that were written up, but again, this is a completely new setup. Everybody's kind of doing their best thing. Like, for me, I've learned vocals, that's my thing. And Connor, drums is his thing, and everyone is doing what they're best at, and that brings a whole different sound with it. So we've kind of had to regroup, rethink of new stuff, and I love the new stuff. So I think I'm pretty positive about what's going to happen. Learning a lot about doing it yourself. It's not just the music, it's the marketing, it's a business. Watching a lot of YouTube tutorials. How do I edit this video? Very frustrating. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it's so worth it, because we're doing it all ourselves anyways, and might as well do the other side and promote it and learn how to do that well. So
yeah. And I think that's a huge thing, is the production side of things. Like, kind of Chris and I were talking about it yesterday, that we're doing everything ourselves as a band. Like, it's all on us, the way we're sharing, the way we're running our ads, the way we, the videos, the social media presence. It literally is another full-time job to keep up, because like, we want to be taken seriously. We want people to view us as like a professional band, but we're in that building stage of getting there. But it definitely, like, it's hard when you're having to do all that yourself. So I think that's kind of the learning curve of dropping an album, of promoting it properly, of doing all this. And like, yeah, I think that's probably honestly my biggest questions,
that's the biggest
fears that
fear for me is being consistent, because Connor, Fire Station, he's gone for 48 hours. Sometimes, I don't know, he's busy on calls. I'm like, okay, he just won't answer the phone for who knows how long. So that, and then I got softball season. We're traveling like to 4 to 5 different states throughout the whole season. I'm literally gone half of the weekends. And so it's really hard to stay consistent with social media presence. Like, and that's kind of been our struggle, is we drop off for like a month, then we get back on it. And I'm like, okay, how do we get consistent? How do we pre-plan content? And I'm excited for that because we got a lot of talented, great members here, and I kind of want to pick their brains. What do we do? How do we stay relevant even if we're not gigging? Because we can't not post if we're not gigging. We got to keep stuff up. So,
and Business Suite has been that app that's been helping us. Is like pre-scheduling posts, and also like Chris, he's a photographer, so he does like he made the cover for Everything Will Be Fine, and that's like his kids in the background skating and all that. So it's like it's kind of cool to also have those editing abilities.
Yes,
like
yes, very, very
for
helpful.
sure. I do respect a band that is willing to get in the trenches, especially early on in their in the band, that's willing to get in the trenches and kind of DIY this thing. Because I've seen, like, doing this podcast, I've seen a lot of musicians and stuff that just they're jumping into their first single and they go out and just hire media people to do everything because they happen to have the money and by whatever which ways to do it, but they're not understanding like what it takes to actually build their community and build that authentic, you know, connection with their music or with their fans or their listeners or however you want to describe it. You know, I know there's a whole conversation to be had. How do you address your fans or your listeners? Are they fans? Are they listeners? Are they your friends? You know, like whatever it is, you know. So I always have a lot of respect for bands that are just willing to get into the trenches and just make it work. And, you know, I think you end up learning a lot. And then Connor, you brought up just kind of in this, I think you brought it up that, are you guys recording all this yourself, or are you actually bringing?
So this whole album is being recorded. This is our first time going to a studio. So we've been actually going to a local studio, and because we've done all of our singles we've dropped up till then were self-recorded. Okay. So getting that extra voice, and it just goes so much quicker in the studio that pretty much all the gigs we pool all of our money as a band during all the gigs we play during the summer. And then that covers like recording, basically all the recording fees and stuff. And then we're just basically running all the media pages, all the websites, all that fun stuth, and the marketing side of things.
Andy from Chop Shop, shout out. He's really awesome, and I think it's our third time going there, and I think the more times we go to that studio with him, the easier it is, because he gets to know us and we get to know him and kind of combine our ideas. And like Connor said, it's so nice to have a third party perspective on stuff, because when we're all individually recording as a band, it can get side railed real quick, because we're all like, oh, what if we do this? Or, oh no, this isn't working. And it's like really, really hard. And versus studio, just bam, get in, get things done. And I've really enjoyed the studio experience so far.
Yeah, for sure. I think it helps when you're paying for the time in there, right? It helps refocus. It focuses the energy, it focuses the time, because, you know, like Connor said, right? Like, this is all money that we've all earned and pooled, and we're investing to pay for the studio time. So there's not time. We got to get a lot of rehearsal in prior. Things got to be clean. We got to have our ideas ready and done. There's not a lot of development that's happening in there, because we're paying for his time. And so it's sometimes that can be really challenging, especially when we get later in the day, and you could tell that, you know, Andy's ready. He's done for the day. Like, we've paid for his time, so every take that's the best take, you know. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I must say though, like, the fact that you all kind of took it upon yourselves to record your original stuff, I think more musicians need to do that, because it gives them the ability to kind of be able to communicate with any future producers. Like, oh, hey, when we were recording it, I put a little bit more bass in my, you know, like whatever it is. It kind of not putting you on an equal playing field, but if you're sitting there for 20 minutes trying to describe how your voice sounds so tinny in a previous recording, an engineer's going to be like, all right, there's 8,000 ways to get to that, but which way did you? Yeah. So
it gives you respect, for sure. Like, had we not recorded anything ourselves in our garage and gone through the process of taking like 3 weeks on one song. Like with Wonder Why, that one was like, even though it's such a simple song, it took us so long and so many tries. I mean, I probably had like 70 tracks lined up of that. And it was like, it just gives you that appreciation when you walk in the studio, and then you can just talk exactly like you said, face to face, and be like, this is what I want. This is the sound. And he's able to communicate back with you. And that's been super helpful. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. So just kind of everything outside of music, when y'all are just de-stressing or need to disconnect from the world or whatever, what are some of your hobbies? What do you do to just kind of escape from society?
I would say I love to work out. I love to swim. Like I love to swim, hot tub, and I love to drink. Like,
oh my gosh!
But like those three in general, I would say just kind of fun. Like hanging out. I'm a social person. I'm definitely an extrovert. So like hanging out with guys from the fire station, going to movies. Like Klaus and I, we went and saw a movie last night. And like it's just being able to be around friends, family, and have a fun time. And like, yeah, the fire station for me, it's kind of funny because music is my de-stressor from the fire station, but the fire station is my de-stressor from music. Because it's like I get to hang out with the guys, you know, and like completely separate side of my life. So that's mine.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly. I definitely get spun up a lot when all of these things are going on, and that I do need to find something to help with that. I guess softball should be that. Most of the time it is, but sometimes I take it too seriously, and that makes me stressed. And it's especially during season. Like if we lose a game, I'm not fun to be around. And it's not fair to Connor. When I come home and I'm just mad. And so then I'm like, okay, this is my last year doing this. Let's have some fun. And then I got to treat music the same way. Like, let's have some fun with it. Like, let's not put too much pressure on ourselves. Again, we only have one life here. Why are we making it so hard? So I think a lot of it's just the mentality of things and learning how to relax. And watch a movie, I think, is our release. Connor and I will, like, just watch something or a TV show. That's a good de-stressor. But, yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. And then
so I during the summer I spend a ton of time with my wife going to concerts. We try to go to any and every concert in the area we can. She loves that, and it's a great time. We spend a lot of time doing that together. But my other big hobby is hunting. I love big game hunting. So coming up in October and some archery starting this month. Yeah, that's my biggest de-stressor. I get out, get away from people, bring home good, clean, organic meat that everybody gets to eat all year, and
nice. What are you usually hunting?
Elk, deer, antelope.
Elk. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
You said October, and I was like, I know in Illinois that was coming up on deer season, so I didn't know what it was in Idaho. So.
Yeah, it just depends on if you're hunting archery or rifle. Yeah. Archery season is usually through September for deer and elk, and then starting October is most of the rifle seasons kick off.
Gotcha. Cool. And then Brendan?
One thing that I've been doing lately to de-stress, I think it's really funny, but I make all of these things in Logic, and probably 95% of the things that I make just like I'll save it and then I'll forget it, and then I'll save it and I forget it, and I end up with like 500, like a library of like 500 different like projects in my Logic, and it's really interesting, and it's almost like therapeutic in a sense, because like I can like go back to like project 237, just like click on a random one and just like listen to what I was doing and be like, what in the hell was I thinking? And I can kind of like laugh at myself and kind of go through a couple of my old projects and maybe find one or two that I'm like, why didn't I do more with this? Like, and then like build upon that. But yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. It's been really interesting.
Nice. So your de-stressor is to make more music?
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's right. Fair enough. But I don't want to keep you all too much longer here. For anybody that wants to check out your new single, Everything Will Be Fine, or interact with you on social, where's the best places for them to find all that information?
So everything's linked through our website. All of our links to our Facebook, our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can email us directly through there, or you can DM us on any of those sites, and we check them all. So we get notifications. We respond to that. Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube. The song's out on pretty much everywhere. So anywhere that there's Amazon Music, you can stream it from there. But yeah, all of our stuff's listed at towntrees.com. So everything's under our website. Kind of that's the blanket, covers everything, I think.
Awesome. And then before we leave, do y'all have any advice for the young musicians out there?
Yeah, it's one that actually when I had a FaceTime with the Lumineers that they had given me, they had told me it's a long run. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Stay with it. For them, they were saying it was about an 8-year period before they even got any traction. They were playing in like a bar in Colorado with like 20 people. And then now they're multi-million traveling tour and, 40, 50,000 people each show. So it was humbling to hear that. And then for me, I just have a 5-year goal, have a 10-year goal, and set it and just work towards that. It's about consistency. It's about staying with it. It's about keeping your name, keeping your sound, and just going for it. Like staying consistent, because consistency will win over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, what's your why? Why are you doing it? Don't do it because you want to impress people. Do you actually love what you do? Like, do it because it makes you happy. Not because your parents do it. I fell in that trap a little bit when I was younger, but now I realize I really do love music. I love it. I love the social aspect because I love the band. I wouldn't fully 100% love it just if it was just me. It's kind of like the team aspect. I love the team aspect. So make sure you find your why.
For sure.
Yeah, I think have your discipline and get your reps, right? Whether that's repping a single riff, whether that's repping chord changes, whether it's repping gigs or stage time. Everybody has to do it. Everybody pays their dues. I think just get your reps. That's the biggest thing.
I totally agree with what Tori said about know your why, because it's really easy, I feel like, if you have resolve and you have an image for what you want to become that. But if you're not clear of who you want to be, what you want to do with your life, like for me, I would really like to, for me, it's always just been like, if I can make music that makes one person smile, then it was worth it, right? But just having an image of who you want to be really helps you become that person. Without that image, it's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, thank you all for that little information. Any of the young musicians out there that are listening, take all that to heart and, just kind of get out there and just, I think Chris brought it up about getting out there and doing their reps. So that's ultimately what Live and Amplified wants to do, is as we're in like a culture where a lot of music classes are getting taken away from school, we want to make sure kids still get out there and play music and stuff like that. And just these little pieces of advice, I feel like really help the young kids out there just kind of realize it's not easy for anyone. Like, yeah, it looks like, thanks to MTV and all that stuff, where these kids just pop up overnight and, they're multimillionaires. Now it doesn't happen like that. So, I want to thank you all for that, little piece of advice for all the young ones out there. But real quick, before we wrap this up, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Chris, Connor, Tori, Brendan, thank you all for joining us. It was an absolute blast. We'd love to have you back on once the full album is ready to release and all that stuff at the end of the year. So we'll stay in contact for that. Anybody that's listening live on Twitch, make sure you drop us a follow. We are trying to grow our Twitch community here, as we are still relatively new to the platform here as far as live streaming goes. You can find all the information for Live and Amplified on liveandamplified.net. It's got all our socials and all the randomness that we like to do. But appreciate everybody. Appreciate all your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you all on Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.